Hello, studio teacher friends. Welcome to the Beyond Measure podcast with me, Christina Whitlock, your self appointed anytime piano teacher friend. I am here ready to offer you your weekly dose of solidarity. And today we are talking about my latest and greatest practice hack. It's probably not what you're thinking, and I can't wait to tell you about it. Before we do that, let's take a moment to thank the listeners who generously support this podcast on Patreon, because you would not be listening to today's episode without them. To learn more about how you can support the work I do and score yourself some great benefits in return, check out patreon.com/beyondmeasurepodcast. Okay, let's get rolling. This is episode 153 of the Beyond Measure podcast. Cheers to my number one practice hack. Here is the backstory. If you have been around here for a while, you already know what a die-hard fan I am of Brené Brown's work, The Gifts of Imperfection. I have talked about it many different places, but most notably this summer in episode 131 on our summer bookshelf tour. You may also be aware that I am currently leading my first ever book study through that work right now. It's not too late to join for free, by the way. You can find that link in the show notes for this episode. But anyway, since I am currently up to my eyeballs in thoughts from my annual rereading of The Gifts of Imperfection, I wanted to share something that originally dawned on me this past summer after recording episode 131 about the book. It has to do with practice, obviously, but also about so many other things. It impacts how our students show up for their lessons, how we respond to their behavior, and overall, it's really just a pretty big deal. So, I want you to think today about all the times in our musician lives where we beat ourselves up because we think that we're already supposed to be able to do something. Especially now that we are teachers, right? I mean, we are armed with knowledge and experience, and that means we're supposed to be able to do all the things, right? Well, reading Brene Brown's work has helped me shine a flashlight on the fact that I spent a lot of my own practice time feeling behind. For as long as I can remember, there has been this overarching belief hanging over me that I am not where I'm supposed to be. And so, when I would be working through a technical passage, instead of embracing the challenge in front of me and just putting in the work, the whole experience would be tinted by shame because I thought I was supposed to be able to do it already. And with every struggle that presented itself, I didn't blame the difficult writing. I didn't blame a fingering that needed reworked. I blamed myself, my weak technical skills, and my lack of ability, or whatever it might be. And friends, hear me on this. Even if this does not describe you, even if you have a much healthier sense of self who doesn't hold yourself to unreasonable expectations, I promise you have students who think like me. Some of us call this perfectionism, but I think that concept is too broad and honestly, maybe just too overused right now. So I get asked a lot about how to deal with, quote, perfectionistic students. Students who are terribly hard on themselves. We all have them, right? And there are lots of strategies for different students out there. But I don't think enough attention goes straight to this issue. We have to find opportunities to remind our students that they are not behind. You know, I've honestly really struggled writing this episode because I don't feel like I'm articulating this idea very well. I've written and deleted a lot of words on this subject. I want there to be this one word descriptor for what I'm trying to get at, but it's complicated, right? Lucky for us, we do have Brene Brown and her incredible body of work to help us. In The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene reminds us that there is a word for the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. That is called authenticity. Authenticity, I'm going to say it again, is the daily practice of letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you are. And when you think about it that way, I have come to decide that learning a musical instrument is really just one big exercise in authenticity. As our students are coming to their lessons, they are inevitably trying to figure out what pleases us. It's an aspect of teaching that is really easy to overlook, but our students want our approval. But in seeking that approval, how many of them are getting lost in being the kind of musician they think they're supposed to be rather than the musician they are? Have you ever stopped to think that's a big part of why students hate making mistakes? They want to be the pianist. They want to see themselves as the pianist, not the person learning to play the piano. And yet, they are the person learning to play the piano, and they are also the pianist. So, back to hacking our practice. This is easier said than done, but I have put myself on watch. I have been working diligently to pay attention to every thought that passes through my brain revolving around what I think I'm supposed to be able to do already. And it's a lot, by the way, but I have made a very conscious decision to declare those thoughts null and void. I gave myself permission to be the pianist that I am in this moment, rather than the one that I never seem to measure up to in my own head. And friends, the difference has been nothing short of incredible. I am not exaggerating when I say it is the most capable I have felt at my instrument in years. Because, sure, striving for high standards and pressing our limits is par for the course in musician world, but the vulnerability required to show up as our actual, like very human performer, teacher, student selves, I think that is the ultimate practice in authenticity. And I just hope you will take this idea and move forward this week, being reminded that one of the best things we can do for our students is to help them understand the beauty of showing up just as they are. We are not behind, and our students need to know this. I am shaking off the chains of my own expectations. And I've got to tell you, I have never been happier making music. And wonder of wonders, I am playing better than ever. It sounds really silly to say this out loud. I mean, of course, the point of practice is to hone your existing skills and develop them further. And I mean, I've always known I was hard on myself. That's no surprise to anyone who knows me. But to come to terms with the fact that I have been limiting myself for as long as I can remember by holding myself to this nebulous standard, ugh, I am on a mission to make sure those thoughts are a thing of the past. Because working towards a goal is one thing. I mean, that's great. But working towards a goal that you think you're already supposed to have met, that extra layer is a real problem. So let's be mindful of how we express our expectations to our students this week, shall we? Let's make sure as we frame student goals that we do so in a way that clearly communicates that we are all on our unique journeys and none of us are behind. I don't want my students to think that I expect them to be able to do the things that I suggest right away. Let's be extra diligent in the way we articulate this expectation. Does that sound like a plan? We can do this, friends. Let's wrap up with a toast. Studio music teacher friends from all around the world, today we commit to shaking off the weight of our own expectations. We embrace where we are right now, knowing we are not behind. Sure, we all look forward to future growth and improvements. Of course we do. But may we make it crystal clear in our own minds and in those of our students that any work facing us is free from moral judgment. There is no shame in being the musicians we are today because, hey, we've done good work. And yes, there's still more to do, but we are on the journey together. So, on that note, friends, I'm raising my glass to you. Here, here. And that was episode 154, friends. My number one practice hack is to embrace authenticity. I am done giving any mental energy to that pianist that I think I'm, quote, supposed to be. If any of this happened to sound familiar today, it's because I did write about the original Epiphany in my One Thought Thursday e-letter several months ago. If you aren't signed up to get One Thought Thursdays in your inbox each week, be sure to go sign up at christinawhitlock.com/subscribe so you don't miss a thing. That link is also in the show notes for today's episode. Okay, one more thing. It's time to celebrate our teacher friend of the week. This week's TFOTW is none other than the phenomenal Anna Fagan. Anna is a member of my Patreon community and never fails to inspire me with nuggets of wisdom. Anna once reminded us that music lessons are like a treasure hunt, not for our students, but for us as the teachers. Every student holds musical potential. It's like buried treasure. So our work is to follow their clues and ultimately unearth it. And I just love the picture that paints. So, Anna Fagan, thanks for being our teacher friend of the week. Inspired by that sentiment, friends, I leave you with this. Onward and upward toward unearthing your student treasures this week. Take care, everybody.